What's up, guys? Welcome to the Chess Giant. This is Solomon Erdell, and in today's video we're going to be covering my top 5 underrated chess openings of all time. What lines and variations can you play to take your opponent by surprise while maintaining a high level of chess strategy? Now, these openings are in no particular order, but the first one is a response to d4, in which black will usually play a move like knight f6, going into the Nimzo or Bogo Indian, as well as the King's Indian Defense, or a move like d5. In which case white will usually go with the Queen's Gambit with c4 offering up the pawn. But the 7th most popular option for black is the move c5 with the Old Benoni Defense. I absolutely love this system, and the best move for white is to play d5. But the obvious question is, why not just take the pawn on c5? I mean, why not just take a pawn on move 2? Well, the problem with this is we now have e6 threatening to take the pawn with a tempo eyeing that f2 pawn, and it's not a good idea for white to try to hold on to this pawn with a move like b4, because we play a5, again keeping the pressure on white. And if a3, we're simply going to take on b4, and after a takes b4, win a rook on a1. So a3 doesn't work, and if c3, we still take back, and it may appear as if white has successfully managed to hold on to the c5 pawn, but we now play queen f6, eyeing the rook on a1, and there's no way for white to save it without playing knight c3, giving up a full minor piece. Black is completely winning here. So obviously d takes c5 is not the best option for white. What about d5? What do we play now? Well, I prefer the move e5. Again, an absolutely crazy move. Both the e5 and the c5 pawn really eyeing the dark squares in the center of the board, and white might be tempted to play a move like d takes e6, but I personally don't think this is a very good option for white. We're going to take towards the center with the f pawn, continue with d5, knight f6, bishop e7, castle kingside. We have a very aggressive game there, and following a move like e4, which is the most popular option at the master and grandmaster level, we're now going to play d6, locking this position up. And if a move like knight c3, we're going to play knight f6, followed by g6. It really doesn't matter what white plays here. We're going to continue with fianchettoing our bishop on g7. We're next going to castle kingside, and here the best option for white is knight d2. And really the purpose of knight d2 is two-sided. First off, bringing the knight to c4, a very active square, and also eyeing potential f4 ideas. But we as black aren't going to sit around and let white attack us, but we're going to try to attack the white king by playing knight e8. And some of you are probably wondering, how on earth is a move like knight e8 an attacking move? Well, the whole idea is to play f5, looking to take the pawn on e4, or play f4, eventually play h6, king h7, g5, get our pieces in the action, and aggressively go after the opponent's king. One thing I do want to mention, though, is that we have to lock down white's attack on the queen side of the board. We have to slow it down. And our next move, following knight c4, is going to be knight d7. And if a4, a6. As you guys can see, after the move a5, we have successfully slowed down the attack on the queen side of the board with our knight on e8, protecting d6, and our knight on d7, protecting b6, as this knight on c4 also eyes that square. So by putting our knight on e8 and playing knight to d7, we're really holding down d6 and b6, which are both key squares for white, and we're now going to be able to play f5, looking to aggressively go down the king side of the board, look to checkmate the white king, and we're just playing really fun attacking chess. Our second underrated opening is f4, with the birds opening for white. Many look down on this opening, but we're basically playing a Dutch defense type system, but with an extra move. Let's say black plays a move like d5. We're now going to continue with knight f3, and after this, play e3, and if knight f6, play bishop e2, followed by castling kingside. This is going to be our first 5 moves of the game. f4, knight f3, e3, bishop e2, and castling kingside. There's really not much black can do from stopping this setup besides playing bishop g4 and taking our knight, which we will gladly take the bishop. We will give up our knight on f3 any time of the day for that light squared bishop. And if a move like e6, we can now play b3. I personally really like this idea coming out of the birds opening. The whole idea is that after bishop b2, we're really trying to control the dark squares of the board. Our d2, e3, and f4 pawn chain really eye these dark squares as well as the bishop, and this knight on f3 is looking to pounce into e5. The very next move, if castling kingside, we're going to play knight e5, a very active square for that knight, and with the activity of white's pieces plus the development, I really like this position for white. Our third underrated chess opening is against e4, in which we're going to play b6 with the Owen's defense. What on earth is black doing by playing this move? Well, Magnus Carlsen himself, the current world champion since 2013, has used this move to dismantle elite grandmaster competition. And here the whole idea for black is following a move like d4, playing bishop b7, attacking the pawn on e4, and if knight c3, playing e6. And here, if a move like knight f3, I mean, this is just natural developmental chess from white. Putting two pawns in the center, developing the knights. We're now going to play bishop b4, attacking the knight on c3 and the pawn on e4. And following a move like bishop d3, play knight f6, again, putting the pressure on that e4 pawn. And if queen e2, defending it, d5. I absolutely love this variation for black. The bishop here, very active, attacking that knight. And now we have a knight, pawn, and bishop all attacking this e4 pawn. I personally think that e takes d5 is white's best option. But if the move e5 is played, we now have knight to e4. Absolutely devastating move. And now white has to be extremely careful. For example, if white just plays a move like bishop takes e4, we simply take back. And white can't take the pawn on e4 because of the bishop on b4 pinning the knight to the king. And if queen takes e4, we simply take the queen. So here, after a move like knight g5, we're going to take that centralized pawn. And after bishop d2, take a second one. Here, after knight takes e4, play knight c6, looking to play knight d4, and black has a great game. This is just one of the many variations coming out of the Owen's defense in which black has a very surprisingly good attacking game. Our fourth opening is the crab opening, which you can use with either white or black, and it starts off with the crazy looking move a4. Now, I must admit, when I first covered this video on the channel, I thought this was absolute trash. The crab opening starts off with a4, and after a move like e5, playing h4, what on earth is white doing? But I'm surprised to say that this opening isn't as bad as it looks. Following a move like d5, we're now going to play e3, followed by d3, put a knight on d2, and here if a move like castling kingside, we have a couple of different options. One of them is fianchettoing our bishops with b3 and g3, fianchettoing the bishops, and putting our knights on d2 and e2, and I really like that setup. Another idea, though, is bishop e2, idea being we can play g4. With our queen and bishop protecting that pawn, we could play g4, idea being we now have g5, really creating a space advantage on the king side of the board. And after knight d7, we can simply play the move b3, looking to fianchetto this bishop. And the whole idea is that even with h4 and a4, it's hard for black to find a quick and easy win. I mean, the rule of thumb is that if e4, we play d4, and if d4, we play e4. We're simply trying to keep this position closed and lock up, naturally develop the pieces, and strike at the right time. I find this opening very dangerous, especially in bullet, rapid, and blitz chess, when the opponent really doesn't know what to do, and if black looks to quickly attack or checkmate our king, oftentimes we have amazing counterplay. Just trust me, guys, I have 4 videos on this opening. Go check it out. It's a very interesting system for both white or black, depending on which color you are in the game. And our fifth and final underrated chess opening is the Ponziani, which starts off with e4, and against e5, we now play knight f3, and following knight c6, I mean, white has so many good options here. The most popular chess openings are bishop c4 with the Giuoco Piano, or Italian game, bishop b5 with the Ruy Lopez. We have knight c3 with the 3 knights variation. We can play d4 with the Scotch Game or Scotch Gambit, but I find the most underrated move to be c3 with the Ponziani opening, looking to immediately break through with d4. Oftentimes, white will play bishop c4 with the Italian game and then play c3, looking to really aid that d4 move. But with the Ponziani, we just play c3 right away. And even if black plays knight f6, attacking our pawn on e4, we're not going to play a passive move like bishop d3 or queen e2 or queen c2, but aggressively push with our whole idea of d4. And now there's a few different options for black, but one of my favorite lines is following the move knight takes e4, probably the move I run into the most, in which we can now play d5, attacking the knight on c6. Now here, I think the best move for black is bishop c5, but it's very rare that black plays this move. This takes a ton of opening theory. Most of the time, black's just going to play knight e7, in which we can take on e5. And black's doing okay here, but it's very easy to fall into trouble very quickly. We have a very interesting and different position with knights on e7, e5, and e4 all lined up, and the knight on e5 from the black perspective is pretty annoying. Black might be tempted to play a move like d6, but we play bishop b5 with check, and we're completely winning. And black might be tempted to play a move like knight g6, but we're now going to play bishop d3, setting up a potential trap. Black might be tempted to play the move knight takes f2, idea being, if we take on f2, black can now play bishop c5 check, attacking our king, and after a move like king e1, simply taking that knight on e5, attacking our bishop. Black has complete control of the dark squares, not to mention being up an entire pawn. And here, if we play queen e2, looking to pin the knight, black can simply just play d6, looking to play bishop g4, attacking our queen. And if h3, queen h4 check is played. I probably don't even have to say this, but this is not looking very good for white, especially with the activity of black's pieces on h4, e5, and c5. For example, if king d1, black can now continue with bishop g4, pinning the queen. Idea being if h takes, we have queen takes h1. This is game over. You might as well just throw in the towel. So following the move bishop d3, it honestly makes a ton of sense why black would want to take on f2. I mean, king takes f2 seems like the only real option here, but we're not going to take that knight. We're instead going to play the crazy looking move, bishop takes g6, and now white is completely winning this game. If h takes g6, we simply take the knight, and we're a piece ahead. And if knight takes d1, we can now take on f7, forcing the king to e7, play bishop g5 check, forcing the king to d6, and we could take the queen, but even better is knight c4 with check, again forcing the king out to c5, and now playing knight b to a3. What on earth is white doing? Well, we're threatening to play b4. Now black could play a move like a5, in which we simply take the queen, and if queen takes g5, we play b4, and at move 13 in this game, black has lost with a king on c5. If you'd like to learn more on the theory behind the main lines of the Ponziani opening, click the video to the left. If you'd like to explore more chess openings in general, click the playlist to the right. Check the description to learn more about all of the 5 openings covered in this video. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.